Today on Ag Etc., we start off with Dwayne Tays and Mark Diedrich talking about Mark's decision to start a confined cow herd. Then Dwayne speaks with Dr. A.J. Tarpoff about the rise of anaplasmosis in cattle, what to look for. Next up, will sorghum hit maturity before the first freeze? See what Ignacio has to say. Then on Horsing Around, neurologic issues in horses. And we finish up with Lex Bush with Bush & Sons Land and Cattle in Dighton. Closed captioning brought to you by Ag Promo Source. Together we grow. Learn more at agpromosource.com. This segment brought to you by Kansas Regenerative Medicine. Your stem cells, your health, your life.
Dwayne Taves joining you once again here on AGam in Kansas, and a chance at a recent field day to catch up with Mark Diedrich and Diedrich Family Farms. A unique situation here, Mark. You looked at the cattle industry and the business and land cost and made a decision to try and do a confined cow herd operation. Tell us a little bit about what it went into the thinking behind that.
That's correct, Dwayne. The cost of grass was just prohibitive to grow our cattle herd on, and so we looked at an alternative way of feeding and raising calves, and this is a system that we've kind of tweaked over time that we're currently using.
Certainly, I'm guessing that there were concerns that you probably had, questions, not a lot of resources out there, and therefore just a general knowledge of cattle probably played a big part on your behalf.
Yes, I have experience in the cattle industry, raising cattle, but this is kind of new ground to cover. So there was questions as far as the herd health of the calf that we raise out of there, if we're going to have trouble with scours or respiratory problems. And then on the other side, there was some uncertainty on how reproductive performance would be impacted by dry lighting cows.
We think about this particular system, there are some opportunities for those cows to get out of the dry lot scenario at times during the year to utilize the resources that you have here on this particular piece.
That's correct. We use a rotational grazing, strip grazing system. We use sorghum Sudan grass. It's a brown rib forage that is very high in tonnage, and we fertilize it heavily to get a lot of growth out of it. The other product that we use is oats and turnips and radishes. Those two crops work well together.
We think about flexibility really probably was key in the early going and not knowing just exactly how to set things up.
Yes, we didn't have very many, we didn't have anybody really to ask. Nobody was really doing that. So we just kind of took it one step at a time and tried to address the issues as we went and tried to do as good as job with cost control and keeping the overhead costs down so we could be competitive.
And that really gets to the bottom line. When we looked at what grazing cattle and what pasture leases would cost for 150 days, you're running that cow herd 365 a year.
Yeah, so it made it a little more attractive. The cost of grass just got so high that we could no longer expand by buying grass, and so this gave us an alternative way of raising cattle and using forage sources that were, like high roughage, low quality, that we could run through the cows and add value to our operation.
And in reality, just on this particular piece, not many acres to run 200 head of cows, but you do get a chance to get them off to some other stalks and other residues in the wintertime.
That's correct. When after fall harvest, we run them and rotate them through corn stalks, bean stubble, milo stalks, and so they are out of the facility. And really, Dwayne, that's the cheapest place to put those cows is on stalks.
Soil is the life of a farm, and for 25 years, Sure Crop Liquid Crop Nutrition has helped growers produce abundant quality crops while preserving and improving the soils they steward. Sure Crop offers complete soil and plant analysis with cropping recommendations, delivery direct to your on-farm storage, and quality crop nutrition custom blended for your field. Choose Sure Crop for the assurance of excellence for your soil. Call today or visit their website for more information.
I'm Rexanne Strew, veterinarian in Western Iowa. I have a veterinary clinic and started doing stem cell therapy on dogs in August of 2014, and after the first 2 dogs, after 3 weeks, I saw such dramatic results. I said, hey, I have arthritis, I have joints that really need this help. Where can I go to get this done? I had stem cell therapy done in November of 2014 on my finger joints, my hip, and the ball of my left foot, all of which I'd had real severe problems with. Saw a pretty dramatic improvement in a short amount of time. I would certainly recommend that somebody don't wait until I'm in the position that I was in with the damage already done to my joints. I encourage veterinarians to use it for their animals, and I encourage anybody who sees this video, if you have need, get in contact with these people, because this is a phenomenal place to have this done.
This segment brought to you by Kansas Wheat. Learn more at rediscoverwheat.org.
Dwayne Thames joining you once again here on AGam in Kansas. In a recent field day, a chance to catch up with A.J. Tarpoff. And A.J., a beef extension veterinarian with Kansas State University, and you had the opportunity to talk to producers about anaplasmosis. It's become a bigger issue in the state of Kansas. Obviously, it's been around for a number of years, but we start seeing more incidents in the past couple of years. Tell us a little bit about that particular disease and why growers need to pay attention.
Well, anaplasmosis, to start with, it's a rickettsial bacterial organism, and it affects the red blood cells of cattle. And what has been happening over the last several years is it's starting to poke its ugly head up in certain areas, especially within Kansas, that we've never seen it before. As of late, just about every single county within the state of Kansas has had at least one reported case of anaplasmosis.
We think about why that's important. Obviously, the detrimental effects of the disease on a cow herd can be significant in some situations.
It absolutely can. If we have a naive herd and anaplasmosis comes through, what's different with this is a lot of the times the first clinical sign that we get within a naive herd is dead, mature animals out in the pasture. And that can be extremely devastating, especially considering the price and how much these animals truly mean for the operation. And it often happens very suddenly. So very costly, but it also hurts production. It can cause abortions. It can do a number of different things as apart from the overall mortality loss. But anaplasmosis is an extremely costly disease.
Talk a little bit about what we're trying to do to combat that particular issue and what producers should have front of mind.
Number one thing to do when dealing with anaplasmosis is have a very strong relationship with your local practitioner, your local veterinarian. Have a valid veterinary client-patient relationship. That allows you to use many more products to be at your disposal whenever you work with your local practitioner. On top of that is we have different products that we can use through the feed, different types of treatment mechanisms, but mainstay is prevention. Okay, anaplasmosis is a blood-borne bacteria. We have different vectors, such as ticks and flies. So a part of our anaplas control method, we need to be able to control these external parasites. Apart from that, we have mechanical means that we can transmit this disease. And by mechanical, things that people can do. Anything that gets blood exposure, injection needles, dehorners, tattoo pliers, any of these any of these tools that we use within a herd can transmit this disease from one animal to another.
We think about the unfortunate situation that stressors typically bring on and make it more apparent, I understand, as well.
Stressors can, especially when the animal gets into clinical stages of disease. They have the inability to move oxygen within their system. They can get extremely violent, and just the act of moving the animal can send it over the edge. So understand, be safe when you're handling these animals. Early treatment is always the best. Whenever they're just going off a feed, they're showing a little bit of either very white mucous membranes or very yellow. And even signs of constipation, maybe 1 or 2 abortions if you have pregnant cows at that time. These are more the earlier stages that treatment is often very successful at that period of time.
Albeit an unfortunate situation, being honest and open with your veterinary practitioner, probably the best means to get your hands around this in a timely fashion.
Very true. The number one thing I always recommend to producers, talk with your local practitioner, work with them directly, set up different types of different strategies to be able to decrease the risk on your own operation, and both exposure and spread throughout your herd. So kind of our basic biosecurity and biocontainment within our herds to make sure that naive animals are not getting exposed.
Our thanks to A.J. Tarpoff joining us here with an update on anaplasmosis.
Next time you see a beautiful field of corn, reach out and thank the farmers who work tirelessly to raise corn for livestock feed, renewable fuels, and exports to feed a growing world population. The farmers on the Kansas Corn Commission work for Kansas Corn with grower-funded checkoff dollars that support foreign and domestic market development, research, promotion, and education to expand opportunities for Kansas farmers. To learn more, visit kscorn.com.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
Valley Vet Supply.
Ag Promo Source is a unique group of marketing specialists with one mission: help your ag business grow. Each affiliate has their own area of expertise, and they work together to bring you advice, products, and services. To get started, visit agpromosource.com. Ag Promo Source. Together we grow.
This segment brought to you by Sure Crop, liquid crop nutrition delivered right to your farm.
Main questions our farmers are asking at this point is if some of this crop, this sorghum will be able to finish the growing season. And for that, we need to start looking in the past. We need to look at the planting date as a factor number one. What was the hybrid maturity? Is a short season? Is a long season hybrid? And then the third factor is also what was the blooming time? So let's go back to the factor number one, planting date. So if we're planting too early, most of the times we're exposing the blooming early in the season and to the effects of heat. Any of the grains that were not finalized or any of the grains that were affected by abortion, by heat, they will be aborting, and those grains basically they will be empty. The second factor is what we talked before, hybrid. Hybrid is another factor that is really important when we are doing basically selection. On the hybrid side, we have some ones that they are short maturity, we have some ones that they are low maturity, and the hybrid selection really defines when is the blooming time for sorghum. If we are using a hybrid that is a very short maturity hybrid, those hybrids, they will tend to get to blooming really early in the season. And then the third factor, just to touch base on these three concepts, is on blooming time. We always know that between blooming and maturity, we have what we call a number of growing degree dates or a number of heat units. What is the main issue that we might face? If the weather is turning to be low temperatures, as we have in this 2017 August, that was below normal, and September is behaving in the same way. So what is the implications? If we have any really low temperature, below 40 degrees Fahrenheit, we will start seeing that any grain filling, any size of the seeds, of the grains, it will be probably impacting. And then by seed weight, by the size of the grains, we will probably be impacting on yields. At the end of the season, our farmers are looking to this crop and they are all wondering, the only question at this point is like, will the sorghum be able to finish before maturity? And for that, my friends, the only thing that we can do right now is just to wait and make sure that we collect and we have enough temperature for those sorghum that was blooming too late to finish.
Tarwater Farm and Home has been family owned and operated since its beginning in 1978. What you need for farm and agriculture, lawn and garden, clothing and footwear, and so much more. You'll be surprised at what you'll find in this huge store. They have what you need and lots of it. So come take a look. You'll discover that customer service is first and foremost. Always has been with the Tarwaters. Tarwater Farm and Home, 4107 North Topeka Boulevard.
As fourth-generation farmers themselves, Heinen Brothers Ag Service understands the risk and rewards of farming. So when it comes to quality aerial and ground application, fertilizer, ag chemicals, and anhydrous ammonia, call Heinen Brothers Ag today, 800-760-4964.
This is Eric Stonestreet, and as many of you know, I love my home state of Kansas. In March, Kansas ranchers lost homes, equipment, and thousands of cattle from the largest wildfires in the state's history. Imagine losing all you have in a fire. Not just your house, but your livelihood. Ranchers are beginning to rebuild, but it will take years and tens of millions of dollars to build back herds, fences, and other infrastructure. Today, I'm asking you to help. Donate what you can and show your support to the ranchers of Kansas. Simply go to kansasfires.com. Your donation is tax deductible and will go to those who need it the most.
This segment brought to you by Kansas Corn. Learn more at kscorn.com.
Hello and welcome to Horse and Around. I'm Dr. Chris Blevins at Kansas State University Veterinary Health Center. Today, joined by Dr. Katie Delph.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being on the show. Dr. Katie Delph is an assistant clinical professor here at the vet school and is boarded and is a specialist in equine internal medicine. So Dr. Delph works on a lot of the more complicated, potentially complicated issues that may be referred in or primarily seen here at the vet school, even by the owner directly.
That's correct.
One of the things that maybe Dr. Delph may see is a horse that is neurologic. And when you say a horse is neurologic, what could that mean? Because some owners would be like, well, I've never seen a neurologic horse, or why would I be concerned with neurologic? So what's a neurologic horse?
Yeah, so it can range from a variety of clinical signs that we see. So something as maybe innocuous sounding as your horse that's stumbling a little bit more when you're riding it, to a horse that is down and can't get up. And so again, it's kind of within that array, and we hope that we find those horses before they get down and can't get up, because that's definitely a more serious problem at that point. So some clinical signs may be that the horse is what we call ataxic or uncoordinated, so stumbling over their own limbs, maybe to the point where you notice when they're at a standstill that their legs are all pointing in different directions, or they're dragging their feet, or sometimes they can be really, really weak as well and have difficulty kind of holding themselves up.
And I think some of those things are even of a concern while an owner is riding too, that maybe they're fairly subtle, but they could be ataxic, and to have a veterinarian involved to really check those things out.
Definitely, yep, because it can be dangerous to the person as well that's riding that horse if you don't quite know how severe their disease is.
Right. Well, when you talk about neurologic horses, what could be some causes of a horse being neurologic? What could cause those things?
So one thing we think about, especially in young horses, is what we call cervical stenotic myelopathy, or the lay term for that would be wobblers.
Okay.
And there's some sort of compression of the spinal cord that's typically associated with development of that vertebral canal. Obviously, sometimes we know when something happened and some sort of traumatic injury, or sometimes, we may find the horse with a swollen neck that then we can pinpoint to that localization and find some sort of trauma or fracture in that area. Others could be some infectious diseases that we do vaccinate for, part of our core vaccine series, including West Nile virus or Eastern equine encephalitis as well. So a variety of potential causes.
And another one that sometimes owners kind of forget about is rabies. Horses can get rabies too.
They can, yep, yes.
And those signs, I think could be really all over the board as far as neurologic symptoms, I think, and having a veterinarian involved sooner than later can sure be helpful.
Definitely.
So what kind of, just real quick tests that could be done? You talked about, the cervical stenotic myelopathy. What other type of tests could we do?
So we can do x-rays of the neck, and we can even do those out on the farm. Sometimes it's easier to interpret those if there's kind of a thicker necked horse, but definitely x-rays. We can also try to collect fluid from around the spinal cord, a cerebral spinal fluid tap, either under anesthesia or in the standing horse, and then do different tests on that fluid to try to rule out or rule in some of our differential diagnoses.
Yeah, I think that, again, having your veterinarian involved, maybe even Dr. Delph, if need to, here at Kansas State to help with some of those things is important. Get your veterinarian involved.
Definitely.
Well, thank you, Dr. Delph.
Thank you.
Well, that is it for Horsing Around, and we'll see you around.
KFRM is one of the largest farm radio stations in the nation, dedicated to informing and entertaining rural listeners from northern Oklahoma to southwestern Nebraska. You can catch KFRM in many ways. Of course, 550 on the AM dial, streaming at kfrm.com, or on your smartphone by going to the TuneIn Radio app, or on AGam in Kansas on Tuesdays and Facebook every day of the week. KFRM, tune us in. You'll be glad you did.
Hello friends, I'm Ernie Rodina.
And I'm Dawn Dawson with the Better Horses Radio Show.
For over 9 years, we've been bringing the Better Horses Radio Show to markets all across the Midwest. We talk about God, lots about horses.
We talk about cows, we talk about horse health, we talk to top trainers, and we even talk about Roy Rogers.
We're having a blast with Better Horses Radio Show and would love to take it to a market near you.
So visit our website at betterhorsesradio.com and let us or your local radio station know you'd like to hear it in your area.
The Better Horses Radio Show is unbelievable.
This segment brought to you by Kansas Soybean Commission. Progress powered by Kansas farmers.
When Lex Bush took over the family cow herd in western Kansas more than 2 decades ago, it didn't include any Angus influence.
Originally we had a lot of crossbred. We had crossed Solaire on Limousine, Sembray on that, and I think we were, getting good heterosis, but cattle were a little wild, you know what I mean?
Bush made the switch to Angus in 1998 and never looked back.
These darn Angus are so nice to be around, that easy to handle, and not getting any younger, so tagging calves, just don't have any trouble with them, and excellent mamas, good keepers, and then we're retaining ownership and getting the results through that.
Carcass data showed the first steers finished in 2007 were pretty good. Not great, but those first premiums convinced Bush to keep investing in Angus genetics with above average marbling to target the certified Angus beef brand.
They were, I'm going to say, 80-85% choice in that range. The rest were select. Maybe 1 or 2 primes, and maybe 10-20% CAB out of those first few that went through, and then it's just gradually gone up since then. Every year we gain a little better. I think we were in the 60% on CAB last year, and 22% prime, and 99 point something choice, so good premiums on the other end.
Today, Bush has his sights set on producing more certified Angus beef prime.
I was always worried and asked the question several times of guys that would know, how much prime can you guys get rid of? Bring it on, we'll show you, and that's what's happening. Because we're going to send them more, but they've got the market for it.
Some people ask, what's the trade-off in performance when selecting for top carcass quality?
Marbling selection, you would think we're after marbling, and because that's what's going to make you prime. It has to be in the genetics, and you would think you would give up something on the other end, but we haven't been seeing it. Our cattle are performing, they're gaining good, and yet our percent CAB and prime just keeps going up. So if you're giving up anything, I don't know what it is.
Bush takes pride in producing beef that consumers enjoy.
Some of the top-notch restaurants in the world, I'm feeding those people with certified Angus beef, and that's a good feeling. This isn't just about pounds, it's about quality pounds, and we're producing some really good meat.
I'm Bob Cervera.
Closed captioning brought to you by Ag Promo Source. Together we grow. Learn more at agpromosource.com.